and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Friday episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside Mr. Ty Bartell. Oh, no. First day back. You're already switching lanes here.
Get in the fast lane now. Got to get in the left lane.
I also see you got a new haircut for your first day of school.
Needed it too. I was trying to get in last week too. I don't like letting it grow out too much too. I was just, when it gets hot out like this, man, need to keep it short.
Ty looking all fly for his first day. Did you do a first day of school picture like what's been floating around the internet?
No, I don't get it.
No. Come on, you're in what, like 17th grade?
Yeah, no. We did that for my daughter, but no, I'm not all about the first day of school pics anymore. I'm long past that.
Well, what a way to start. Okay, so we have a busy day for everybody today. It's Friday. It's week 2 in the high school football realm. We're going to go over every single matchup, give our thoughts on it, give a breakdown of what's going to be important about it. Picks will be posted online as content, and they will also be read over in the Power Hour as well. So we're not going to make our picks today. I know that's something that we used to do here on Running Point, but now we're doing company picks. Everyone's picking in the games that works for YSN. So all of our picks, including me and Ty's, will be kind of gone over for Power Hour today.
Yeah, we'll figure. You guys will figure it out sooner or later. It'll be there.
You know, sometimes for these conversations, you can see what way we're leaning anyway. Like you can make an estimated guess of what team me and Ty are picking anyway.
Yeah, most of the time too. I mean, we do a pretty good job of playing the fence, but I mean, there's those times where it's pretty simple to figure out.
Ty, we did have games last night, volleyball and soccer games, and some golf results as well. You can head over to ysnlive.com to check out the recaps of those, and make sure to check out those stories if you want to know scores and stats and high performance from last night. But because we have so many games on the network tonight to go through, I want to get rolling right away. And we are having a matinee, I guess you would say today, at 5 o'clock. South Range traveling up into the Cleveland area to play University School. DJ Oakley making the trip with the Raiders. South Range playing University last year. It went pretty well for them. They're high flying off of their big win over Springfield. Ty, all I can say about this game is South Range is still South Range, and they proved that last week.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely did. And I mean, this is a one where the Raiders really are looking strong again to start the season. Similar score to what we saw a year ago, too, in week 1 of the season. Raiders already off to a great start, too, in that Division 5. And they're looking to keep it rolling right into this week against University School.
This is a high division University School, so it will be in points for the Raiders if they're able to get the win tonight.
Yeah, it absolutely will too. I mean, this is the points or the parts of the season where you really want to make up those points too and get those big wins, because it could have huge implications end of the season and where you get ranked.
That's what you love about games like this. Like University School, maybe not as good as South Range talent-wise or anything like that, but they're still a high division, and the computer rankings don't factor in strength of team. They only factor in what division you're in. So, hey, you beat a division. I think they're Division two school. There you go. Boom.
Yeah, and I mean that's a case too where we've seen it before, and I mean we could see it again too, where it could definitely make the difference between a ranking or quite a few spots in the ranking, just having one or two of those kind of wins on the season.
Well, I think everyone in South Range expects that if the season goes the way they want this year, they have the door wide open to be a 1 seed in Division 5, with Kirtland kind of locking their stake in the 1 seed for the last 2 years, 3 years actually. Kirtland's gone, obviously, so now the door is open for a 1 seed, and South Range had always been 2, and they probably feel like with their schedule playing almost exclusively Division up teams, except for Jefferson, and I think that's all. Someone else dropped it. No, Jefferson. Oh, I forget all the moves. Jefferson.
Jefferson dropped, I think, yeah, because I don't think there was any other Division 5 schools
I
than
think
outside.
Lakeview moved into 5, right?
Yeah,
And then Jefferson moved
5,
up to 4 or
I
down
believe,
to 6. I
up
feel
to
like
4.
Jefferson left Division 5, but Lakeview replaced him.
Up to 4 because there's nothing below Division 5 in the NE8, I don't believe.
I once again, if I'm wrong, I'm sure I'll hear it in the comments, which is fine. I always want to be corrected if I'm not right, but pretty sure Jefferson left Division 5 and Lakeview replaced them. So
I think you're correct.
there's only one other Division 5 team in the NE8 that South Range will play. So every conference game is going to be someone that's upper division. So they should, if things go their way, they should have the 1 seed at the end of the season.
Yeah, you would figure so, and I mean it should be interesting going into this week too. How many points South Range can put up on University School?
Ooh, I'm going to say 45 plus.
Take 45 points. That's a nice score too for them as well, just to put up those big points against those kind of upper division schools as well.
All right, we go from that game to Alliance at Niles. Ian O'Brien will have the call for this one. And you'll look at this. Niles is a team that really impressed a lot of people last week. They hopped into the power rankings for this week's edition, and they looked really good with Antoine Gardner running the ball. Now they come into an Alliance team. Remember, Alliance is the team that upset Salem last year. They're a scrappy team. They know how to win. They should be right around that 500 mark. You know, they're one of those teams that's, how do I put this? They're not world beaters in Alliance, but they're good enough to beat you if you don't execute your game plan when you show up there.
Absolutely, and I mean that's what we're going to expect to see from the Red Dragons coming off of a really nice Week 1 performance too. Going against Alliance, this is a great game, and this is one of those toss-up games I feel like as well. And if Niles wants to start being considered as a serious threat inside that very tough NE8 conference, I think wins like this in the non-conference schedule are almost a must going into that conference slate.
I think last week, Niles, it's like, oh, that's a nice win. Okay, you're looking good. You win week 2 emphatically. Then you really start to raise some eyebrows and maybe earn a little bit even more respect in those power rankings and in the eyes of everybody in the NE8. So, it's easy to win big in week 1. Not every team is ready to go. It's all about who's prepared, who's not. You start winning effectively in week 2, in week 3, in week 4. Then all of a sudden people are like, oh, okay, maybe this Niles team is legitimate. And this is a good test for the Dragons, hosting an Alliance team that has the capability of beating good teams. They've proved it in the past. They'll probably prove it again this year. They'll probably win at least one big EBC game that on paper they shouldn't.
Yeah, and that's the case too with what we see with the Lions every single year. Is they're always up to surprise some people too, as the Aviators always are ready to take off anytime.
And I'm pretty sure last year Salem lost to them in Alliance. It's a tough place to go. It's a really good home advantage they have, and I guess you could call it the hangar in Alliance for the Aviators. So Niles has the benefit of not having to go to Alliance. They're bringing the Aviators to the Dragon's Den. So that should be a good one. Another good one, Ty. Brookfield at Springfield. We all know how this game ended last year. Brookfield looked like they had it in the bag. Springfield scores a late fourth quarter touchdown to put them ahead, and they win that game. And they use escaping Brookfield to catapult them to the rest of the season last year. I think they're looking at this game the same way this year. This is the hinge game because they got beat up by South Range in week 1 like they did last year, even though the score got a little bit more competitive with some late touchdowns. But I think last year they felt like they got handily beat by South Range. They go into Brookfield, they escape Brookfield, and then they steamroll Geneva, and then the rest of the season is just pedal to the metal, let's go. If this game goes Springfield's way, they have Geneva next week, and then they go into their league schedule. It could be another catapult, but like I said, it's a hinge game. If Brookfield comes off of their tough loss against Ursuline and beats the Tigers, and all of a sudden, maybe people start hitting the panic button in Springfield a little bit.
I think, you're going into this game, both teams having been beat up last week.
Right.
And quite frankly, that's the nicest way to put it, right? Both teams coming off of a bad, rough loss too, that they kind of have to kind of regroup, recuperate, and try to get back into this week and try to come off and get a victory. This is going to be an interesting game because these are two very different teams from a year ago. And honestly, you look at it on paper, Brookfield has the advantage because they have the key spots returning in key positions, I should say. But how can you ever bet against Coach Guerrero, too? It's so hard. Doing it 1 week against South Range is hard enough. Doing it 2 weeks in a row, it's like this is a guy that has just been nothing but a winning culture at Springfield. Like I said, came into the season 50 more wins than losses in his coaching career. It's a guy that just knows how to win, get programs to success. It's hard to bet against that kind of program, especially going into a game like this where, like you said, it's almost like a hinge point of the season.
Right. It really is. Last year it took because last year's the Tigers' issue coming into the season was they replaced almost their whole offensive line. And they had to kind of figure a way out to kind of get them to work as a unit. A lot of new faces on that O-line. It took them about 3 games, but they finally did in that Geneva game where the offensive line was kicking, and they never had a problem after that. Now it's more of replacing skill position players, right? So your offensive line is mostly back, but now you have to replace the guys that get you the yards, make the plays in space, score touchdowns. This is going to be the question. Like a lot of people say, I'd rather replace skill players in offensive line because games are won in the trenches. So you wonder how long it'll take Springfield to find an equilibrium with the new skill position players, and how it will compare to how long it took them to find an equilibrium with their offensive line last year.
It's a hard game to pick, man. And I tell you what, I know we're going to reveal our picks on Power Hour. I think I've changed mine a few times, and before I finally submitted it, I've typed one in, I've deleted it, typed another one in, and I'm just like, until I finally submitted it. It's still one of those ones where it is so hard to pick because, like I said, I think I picked against Springfield twice, and they bit me twice against Brookfield.
I don't think you picked against them once last year. I think you rode with them.
And
then you said if they lost to Geneva, you would never. Yeah,
I was going to cut them out. Then I'd cut them out if they lost.
But they just steamrolled Geneva, and you're like, okay, I'm rolling with it. I'm never picking against the Tigers again. I think that's what you said.
Yeah, it's going to be tough too. This is a tough matchup. I'm interested to see both these teams kind of needing a win in week 2 after a loss in week 1.
Yeah, and both those losses came against upper division teams. Springfield went up 2 divisions for South Range. Brookfield went up 3 divisions for Ursuline. So, I think they have to remember that when they're going into this game. It's a lot more even when you talk about what divisions these 2 teams are in. Springfield's still going up 1 division, but maybe both teams feel like they're more on even playing ground with each other.
Certainly, and you got Brookfield that's going to be in D6 still, and obviously D7 for Springfield. So this is still an up division game technically for the Tigers.
Hi, it's time to talk about the game you'll be heading to. Austintown Fitch hosting Canton McKinley. Fitch went up to Hall of Fame Stadium last year, got the win, and now it's Canton McKinley's turn to hit the road and head into Austintown. McKinley's always a decent football program. They're always going to be a team that you have to respect. What do you see? I know you've probably done your homework for this game. Can Fitch look as impressive as they did last week? Is there a way to one-up that performance?
I think there's always a way that they can upgrade their performance. McKinley's coming in 0-1 this week too, but obviously playing in a tough Federal League. They played against Mentor actually week 1 and lost in a close one, 13 points, 34-21 against Mentor. But this was a game last year, I should say, in Hall of Fame Stadium, where we really saw the emergence of sophomore DJ Williams coming out with 3 touchdowns in that game. And I mean, he really put it on the Bulldogs a year ago in that rushing department. Having Jamel James and DJ Williams, and then obviously the threat that Deshaun can pass and throw, they present that kind of similar, I think, threat again this year, with obviously Fitch always being good up front in that offensive line department, always seemingly having size. They have experience in a lot of skill positions too. We just talked to guys like Brian Robinson too, who's coming in at his junior campaign, already has a bunch of D1 offers as well. 6'5" guy, over 200 pounds. He wreaks havoc on that defensive edge position too. It's going to be an interesting game because Camp McKinley, though, always has size. They always have talent. You know that Maslin-Canton area is always good athletically. I don't care what the sport is. They always know how to get good athletes in shape and ready to go against all of our teams. I expect nothing but a good game, but it should be loud too. I know McKinley will travel well, and I know Austintown will bring it as well. So it should be fun tonight.
Everyone's going to be focused on the running backs of Fitch this week, and they should be because that's what happened last year. Fitch dominated with the run. They have 2 great running backs, as you said. But here's one thing I want you to pay attention to in this game, because Canton McKinley knows that they're going to be, probably stacking the box to stop the run. Maybe sending a couple of extra guys to stop the run. It's going to have favorable situations for Deshaun Vaughn to make some plays through the air.
That's where I think the game is going to be determined, because with last year you had Devin Sherwood. So when McKinley did stack that box, they did prevent the run. Sherwood was able to make the right pass, high IQ play to get him out of it too. It's going to be interesting to see if Deshaun Vaughn too, his first year stepping in as a starting role quarterback, looked really good against Foothill, and the Falcons really managed it well, really looks comfortable in that position as he usually does athletically. But I'm looking for similar performance type in this one too. When it comes down to it and he needs to pass, can he make the right call, right read, and get Fitch out of those tough situations that McKinley's going to bound to be put them in a couple of times during this game?
I'll ask you this because you obviously watched last year's game. How much of the success on the ground do you think came from coming into the game? McKinley probably scouted Devin Sherwood a lot more than they did the running attack.
It could have been. It definitely could have been, because I will tell you this: McKinley did not pack size last year.
Because last year, I feel like especially coming into the season, the talk for Fitch was Devin Sherwood. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the area. They're going to hit you with the long in the pass game. I don't think people expected like you said, the emergence of DJ Williams really to happen that quick. But it did in that Canton McKinley game. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking Canton McKinley probably came in not geared up to stop the run, not trying to really, not saying that they couldn't, because like you said, they're a big football team, but they're not sending extra guys to stop the run. They're not focusing on stopping the run. And maybe DJ Williams benefited from that. This year, it might be the flip. They come in expecting the run. They expect to really have to stop the run, and it's the emergence of Deshaun Vaughn as a quarterback.
And that's exactly what you're kind of looking for too, and you're hoping for going into this season. But yeah, this year I'm excited to see what they can bring into it. This is a D1 school, so Fitch is playing up, and this was a team last year, I think overall 8-5. And series record too, 7-8 Fitches against Canton McKinley.
Oh, you got
just about even record overall. 7 wins, 8 losses, Fitches all time against Canton McKinley. So should be a great matchup in front of the Falcon faithful as well.
Yeah, they got to even it up, 8-8. Let's go, Fitch. Next one. This is going to be, I think, another sneaky good one. I know Boardman's defense looked amazing last week, I should say, not last year, last week. And they welcome in a Cheney team that was the definition of just domination against Poland, didn't allow a single touchdown. The only points they gave up were a fourth quarter safety to make it 34-2. Cheney Boardman, old school rivalry again, and this one happening in Spartanville. You think about this one, is Cheney going to keep up their absolute dominance and focus and just pristine almost? They were so sharp in week 1. I don't think they made any unforced mistakes in that game that I saw.
And you know what? Before I go any further, I also want to shout out too. If you haven't, check out our player profile. Steve Leslie did a great one with Jason Hewlett. I was
Yes,
able
he
to
did.
catch
It went
that
up last night.
Yeah, I watched that one last night. Great interview with Jason Hewlett too, and he kind of gives you a little bit of in-depth look at this season too. And I mean, what he really highlights too is everyone always talking about Cheney and the Cowboys being that undisciplined team, and they kind of beat themselves, the penalties and stuff. And I think they're looking to go into this season and just kind of shut the mouths of all the people that have been saying that of them the last few years. And they really came in. You want to talk about a disciplined and a fundamentally sound football team. You saw it at Poland last week too, when the Cheney Cowboys utterly dominated from pillar to post, goal line to goal line the whole way through. The Cowboys were the ones that were on top from the first quarter to the fourth.
They did. They took that question that people had, and I said it too. I said, are they going to be, disciplined and mentally focused the whole game and not have those let ups that they had last year? I was asking that question, and they answered it emphatically with like you said, a pristinely clean game. I don't think any penalties over 10 yards or no personal fouls or anything silly like that in that game against Poland. You look at it, and now you go into this week, and the question becomes, or I should say, the goal becomes for Cheney, be consistent with that throughout the season, because you can do it when you're amped up to do it. You've been amped up to all off season. You've been hearing it all off season. Cheney's not disciplined, so you've been hearing it. Now you have to consistently do it week in and week out, because their schedule does not get easy ever. I don't think there's any like down game for Cheney. So you look at it and you have to just be consistently mentally focused and disciplined throughout the entire 10-game season.
And I'm curious to see it tonight, because we saw a lot of discipline on Boardman's side and a huge win, comeback victory too, against what looks to be a vastly improved Cardinal Mooney squad than what we've said from years before. And I said it in the preseason too, that Cardinal Mooney team's a team that can just surprise you one year out of nowhere too. It's like they're always like snakes in the grass waiting, man. And right when you underestimate them, they're able to come up and bite you. And that's exactly what they look like they're able to do this season. I think they can surprise a lot of teams. But talking about Boardman, I mean, Coach Doda had to hit those guys with that right mentality the whole way through, because it's very easy when a team's beating you 7-0 the whole game to kind of pack it in and say, all right, we can't find any way to score against this defense. Right. But not only to be able to do that and then finish it too, the way that Boardman was able to do so, 10-7. What a win for Coach Doda in his first week, and what a win for the Spartans. A lot of momentum going into this week. Should be a great game too. One of those old kind of West Side rivalries, right?
And you gave a shout out to Steve's interview. I want to stop and give a shout out to Mahoney Valley Sports that had a great shot that we were able to use for that interview. The behind the almost the Odell kind of esque catch from Hewlett with the one hand behind him.
He's something else, man. He's something else. This is going to be a great matchup tonight. This can definitely, I think, sneak away as being the game of the night for sure.
Yeah, I think Boardman wants to be low scoring. They would love it. Their offense hasn't really found an identity yet. They lost a couple of pieces last year. So I think Boardman would absolutely love this game if it stayed in the 21 under kind of category. Cheney obviously wants to be high flying and scoring. So it's a game of tempo. There's a lot of games of tempo every week. This is just one of them. Who's going to control it? Who's going to keep it? Who's going to be able to force their will and their own tempo on the other team is going to be the deciding factor of who's going to win this game.
Both these teams can do so many things well, too, is what makes them dangerous going against each other. They can be extremely versatile. Both have a lot of speed. Both have a lot of size. And this is going to be like one of your just old school, again, rough and tough kind of football games. I kind of expect a Cheney Mooney 2.0 almost in this game, too, with how rough and tough these defenses can play.
It'll be one where you're going to have to take an ice bath on Saturday. That's for
You're going to definitely want to make sure you take care of yourself post-game, too. You're going to be feeling for a couple.
These players are not going to feel good after this game, because both defenses just hit hard and they hit physical, and the lines are going to be ridiculous.
Well, one team's going to feel good because one of them gets to walk out victorious. Right. It's going to be
it always eases the pain a little bit when you can walk out with a victory.
Yeah, for sure. Both of them looking for a week 2 win, trying to go 2-0 in the season.
Man, if Cheney wins this game too, people start thinking, okay, Cheney's for real now. Like, let's go Cheney, right? So it'll be interesting. Cheney's already top 4 in our power rankings, so we'll see what they do against Boardman and what that'll mean for their future inside that list. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have more matchups, plenty of more to talk about on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Why choose local? Because you live here, work here, learn here, relax here, and celebrate here. 21 WFMJ is our Valley's only locally owned TV station, and our focus is local. Other TV stations don't have that same focus, as their owners are somewhere else. But 21 WFMJ is rooted in the Valley. Local people making decisions that affect your life, right here where you live.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa.
And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing.
Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships.
We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team.
Your goals, our game plan.
Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Change. This one word can make you break out in a cold sweat. But with change comes wisdom, experience, and understanding. At Myers Family Insurance, we can help make changes in Medicare, insurance, and retirement a positive experience for you and your family. We've gone through changes, like our new office and new faces to help our family of clients too.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com or find us on Facebook.
Jimmy Sudman here, Director of Isle, Purple Cat, and Golden String. We are happy to support YSN and two of my favorite people, Scotty Mincher and Super Dave O'Malley. We are an agency that provides services for adults with disabilities. We infuse humor, passion, and joy into their lives. If you know of any folks with disabilities that need our assistance, please contact us.
How lucky are we to have not one, but two 18-hole Donald Ross Championship golf courses right here in our backyards. Mill Creek Golf Course was selected by Golf Week as one of America's 30 best municipal courses, continuing to challenge golfers of all levels and featuring PGA professionals, golf instruction, a players' rewards club, kids programs, and a pro shop and grill room for a memorable golf experience. Call or click to schedule your tee time at Mill Creek Golf Course.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, we offer a worry-free experience for all our customers. From sales to financing and even service, we'll help build your perfect vehicle
and lock in your trade value
while your vehicle is being built.
No worries.
We guarantee financing,
regardless of your situation or credit history.
No worries. And when your vehicle needs service,
our award-winning team will get you back on the road.
No worries.
That's what going the extra mile means. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Now is the time to think about your future, where you want to go, what you want to be. Your future can start now at Kent State Salem or Kent State East Liverpool. We have programs that will open doors and provide opportunities for you to pursue your passion. We are affordable, we are close. You call it hometown, we call it Kent State University. Learn more at www.kent.edu/Columbiana. You belong here.
Welcome back to Running Point on YSNLive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside Mr. Ty Bartell. There you go, Ty. Hey, Ty, did you recognize we have a new little backdrop for us?
I do. I recognize it. It looks nice. Looks clean.
Got the sleek black with the microphone coming through. So We always Greenwood on the top because we thank Greenwood Chevrolet for being our presenting sponsor of Running Point, and they will continue to be our running sponsor as we continue throughout the I guess year of Running Point, the new year of Running Point. Ty, we left off with Cheney at Boardman, which is going to be a good one. 7 o'clock kickoff. Donnie Riccatelli going to have the call. We move on to East Liverpool at Indian Creek, and the Potters looked good last week, but you have to have that caveat, and you have to realize that it was against a Minerva team. Everyone knows Minerva is struggling, so I think the Potters this week it's their time to prove. Last week was not just a formula or a result of their opponent. Last week was them executing what they could execute, and that they are a good team this year. So Indian Creek, a much it goes up in scale of the opponent they're playing. They're a really good football team, so they'll have to bring it this week on the road in Indian Creek to win this game.
Yeah, for sure they're going to have to bring it on the road, and this is going to be a great game. Indian Creek it's coming off of a loss, though, so, they're going to be pumped up. But this is a game I think that's definitely winnable for the Potters, and it would definitely, I think, continue opening some eyes for East Liverpool fans down there that this might be a season for East Liverpool, another one of those nice runs that we've seen the Potters make before.
Yeah, I never count on East Liverpool football. I've heard the noise this year. I've heard how much they've lost. But it's just it's a historically, it's a tradition-rich program, so I never count them out. They go to Indian Creek. It'll be Tommy Pease, who has become the voice of the Potters ever since their inception into YSN. So Tommy Pease will hit the road with East Liverpool and go to Indian Creek. Back-to-back road games for the Potters. They had to go to Minerva. Now they go to Indian Creek. They're still waiting for the finalization of their football field to be finished.
Yeah, they are, and this is going to be interesting to see if what it looks like when it is all completed too. I'm kind of excited to see once it's all decked out.
It'll be because the Potter Field House is one of the trademarks of the area, and it's one of the best gyms you can go watch a basketball game in. So you look at the football field, it's are they about to one up the field house?
They might. They might.
They might. Who knows? We go into our next matchup, and it's Conneaut, who we saw have a absolute thriller fall by 1 point to Edgewood last week on the Thursday. So they get the extra day to prepare, and they will travel to Western Reserve, who also looked really impressive against Liberty in week 1. So two teams looked really good. Conneaut had won the wrong end of a really close game. Western Reserve rolled against Liberty. So this one's interesting because Conneaut's going to come in with the physicality, run game, clock management style of football, the old school ground and pound. Western Reserve usually is that, but last week they looked a little bit more balanced. No David Altier in their backfield anymore. They looked like they kind of had more of a balanced offense attack. Their passing game worked pretty well. They threw a couple of touchdown passes. I think this game you're gonna see a kind of a new Western Reserve than you're used to. If this game happened last year, it would be like your physical. Both teams want to run the ball like crazy. Now, yes, Western Reserve can run, but I feel like they have a new dynamic to their offense in the passing game.
It was a big win for Western Reserve to really close things out. And I tell you what, we need to start talking about Luke Henning over there at Reserve because he really had a great game last week. 4 touchdowns to 1 interception, 164 yards, completion percentage at 60 through the air. That's doing it and getting it to a number of different receivers too. I think there's 6 guys with at least a reception in there as well. So distributing it amongst guys as well. And then 2 guys with Darney and then Henning himself also taking 17 carries, presumably just running himself as well. But he got 44 yards. And then Darney, this new guy too, that's really taken over, Jack Darney, steps right in, gets an 83-yard performance too to kind of break up the passing game. And like you said, when you kind of get rid of those superstars, whether that be a receiver, running back, where it feels like you need to feed him a ball, not to take anything away from David Altier, the dude's phenomenal too, right? But it kind of can balance out teams sometimes because they have to find other ways to get it done because you don't have that David Altier to kind of bail you out of situations. You need to depend on yourself, and you need to figure out other guys to depend on as well. So Western Reserve balanced themselves out, and they were able to do it after Liberty posted a comeback last week.
Their numbers kind of go right into it. Their yards were not exactly split, but pretty much split between passing and running. They had 160 some passing yards, and then I think close to 150 rushing yards.
Yeah, I mean, they did a great job of just sharing the wealth, spreading it around. And like I said, it was really a good pushback against a Leopard team who was making a comeback against them.
Yeah, it was a game. It was a roller coaster type game because Western Reserve came out. They owned the first half, and it looked like they were going to run away with it. Then Liberty, like they always do, found a way to make the game interesting. 27-20, they cut it all the way to 7, and then two fourth quarter touchdowns by Reserve makes it a lopsided 41-20. 41-20 game for them. So, to be able to push back and not let Liberty get back in that game, that's a big accomplishment.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's a great win for Reserve to open up the season, and they look to get another one going against Conneaut.
Conneaut gets 2 games in the YSN network in a row, and we're glad that we're welcomed into what their style of football is. It's fun to watch. It's definitely old school. So Conneaut looks to get the win. Western Reserve looks to win their second home game in a row. It'll be Aaron Moser on the call down there for the Blue Devils, 7:00 kickoff. And then we go into East versus East Cleveland Shaw. It'll be at Cleveland Shaw, and Connor Richardson going to make the trip to Cleveland Shaw to cover that game for us for East. This is a good game for East. Cleveland Shaw is kind of like on the same lines as them. They're trying to find traction in their program. I think it's a good stepping stone for East if they want to get some momentum.
I tell you what, East didn't look bad against Hubbard at all last week for a good majority of that game as well. I mean, you talk about it. Hubbard grabbed that early 14-0 lead. East grabbed 8 points. It remained 20-8 for a large part of that game. Hubbard was able to add on another 8 in the fourth quarter to kind of seal it, but it stuck around 12 points for the most long part of the game. East just had to finish off some drives and really put together those offensive drives. They struggled with that in week 1, but I tell you what, the Golden Bears did not look bad at all against Hubbard, and they kept that game competitive for a large part of that game, I should say.
Yeah, and they were going up against a Hubbard team that had hurt all off season. What are you going to do now without TC Caffey? That's all they heard. Well, this offense isn't going to be able to move the ball. So you're playing a motivated team that comes and wants to really send the message. And like you said, East was pretty competitive with him throughout the whole game.
Absolutely. And I think it's definitely there's a lot of building blocks you can go off of in that loss last week if you're East. And this is a kind of week where you can go right in and get yourself a victory against an East Cleveland Shaw team that had a rough week last week as well.
Yeah, so both teams in kind of the same boat. They want to get some momentum for their program. And like I said, it's set up nice for East. It is a long road trip, though.
Yeah, you gotta get yourself up there. It's gonna be a late night tonight, but thankfully it's on a Friday night, I guess.
I wanna just go into Google Maps and just see exactly.
Get the exact miles on it.
I think it may be Shaw High School. This East Cleveland. Okay, so that's what I'm doing right. All right, I see it. All right, so from Youngstown, East Shaw is clocked at 1 hour 25 minutes. So it's about an hour and a half drive. So, that's going to be a late night, like you said.
It definitely will be a late night for them, but hopefully East comes back with a victory too, and then it's
all worth it if you can celebrate the long bus ride with a win.
Absolutely.
And we want to thank our Connor Richardson for making the trip to Cleveland and getting that game on the network for us in East Cleveland for the Bears against Shaw. So that'll be a fun one. United looked really good. You got a chance to call their game last week. They will go home to host East Canton. The Hornets come in looking to sting. This was a good game last year between United and East Canton. So I expect it to be just as good this year.
I do as well, but the big thing with United is they're multidimensional offensively now. That passing game is wide open again, and it's back to what we saw when Coach Ogilvy had little Ogilvy at the QB1
Little.
position too.
I don't think he was little.
Well, no, he wasn't that little.
I think he was pretty big.
In the age difference. But you talk about that, and you talk about the quarterback play that United has. Who knows who they're going to start? They might have the rotation of all three getting playing time again. But the thing is, all of them are serviceable passers, and all of them can know what to do when play kind of breaks down. They can move the ball too with their legs.
Sorry.
And I think that's going to be a huge factor in this one for United. And not to mention, defense looks just as sharp as it did a year ago.
You know, I think to your credit for the offense, last year they were trying to kind of figure out who the quarterback was going to be. You know, they put a couple of guys in there throughout the season. They kind of wavered between, do we want Grant Knight to be a receiver? Do we want him to be a quarterback? Obviously, he's an amazing athlete. He was a great receiver.
Receiver is his number one position.
Right. So, but eventually, and like you said, I think we said it last week when we were recapping their week 1 win, sometimes you just got to put your best athlete back there and have him hold the ball more than anybody. And that's what they did in week 1 with Grant Knight being back there.
Well, Grant Knight, too, was huge in just the receiving game, I should say, too, as well, because he was one of those guys that got open for a huge touchdown pass as well. So he's one of those guys, like you said, great athlete. He's able to do those kind of things as well in his natural position, slot receiver, and he's able to beat out a lot of those great corners that they go against.
Yeah, like as last year, they tried to kind of make him a quarterback a little bit sometimes, and they were kind of stuck in the middle, and they're not stuck anymore this year.
Yeah, they have a lot of options that they can go to in Hanoverton right now, and I mean that's a good problem to have. I don't think you're really going to complain about having too many quarterbacks that can work at that QB1 position.
Their headlines, their defense, though. Their defense played immaculate last week, and they'll look to do the same thing this week.
Yeah, they did. They did a great job against Waterloo, and I mean they really just play discipline and fundamentally sound, and that's what you look forward to against when you play United, when you got guys like Nick Hardgrove that highlight that linebacking core too, and they just have great every layer of defense from the line to the linebacking core to the secondary. They do a great job.
This is a defense that's coming off a year where there weren't too many games where they gave up double-digit points.
No, I mean, I think they averaged 11 points average against them.
Right,
so very good defensive team. So that's where their strength is. But like I said, the passing game seems wide open now this season compared to last.
An East Palestine team that we saw a lot of effort and a lot of positives from last week in their loss to
Malvern, I believe.
Malvern. For a minute it slipped, but I got it. Lost to Malvern. 31-14. It was never a running clock. They stayed in it. They had a lead at a couple points in the game. They had other chances to take leads. So this East Palestine team had a lot of positives to take away, but they go to a tough Toronto team that we saw impress last week with a win on YSN. Now they'll have another game on YSN at home in Toronto. East Palestine, a big test for them, but I want to see that same effort from last week.
Yeah, and I mean it's not going to come immediately too with victories, but the consensus I think from everyone when they saw that is, okay, this is a better East Palestine team than what we saw a year ago. And that's the thing, as long as you're getting better, and that's the biggest thing for the Bulldogs is you're seeing the improvement, and it's hard to ignore it now because that's a good Malvern team that they played last week, and to be in that game at points too and to be competing with them, I think there's a huge compliment to be paid to the Bulldogs in this one. Let's see if they can keep it competitive in this one, though, because it's going to be a tough test. Toronto really looked impressive against Wellsville a week ago.
It was 12-7 at halftime. East Liverpool was trailing by 5.
Yeah, Palestine.
So you got to love that if you're in the East fan base, because last year there were a lot of halftimes where you knew it was done by halftime and they weren't competitive. So this year to have a game against a pretty good Malvern team and say halftime rolls around and we have a chance to win the game, that's a plus.
Yeah, and I mean, just something to build off of going forward. And like I said, too, just be able to get offense like that. I mean, there was seasons where we were waiting for East Palestine to score their first touchdown. So to be able to do it and do it against a team like that, it's definitely better times in East Palestine. You can definitely see that program is starting to get a building blocks put in.
It will be Tim Figley making the trip to Toronto to make that call. By the way, I want to give a shout out to the United broadcaster this week. It's going to be Chris Ziegler going up to Hanoverton to call that game between East
I don't
Canton.
think he's a stranger.
No, although we still haven't figured out how he got locked out of commenting on our show. That's why we haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah. Chris Ziegler's not a stranger to us, and he's definitely not a stranger to that Hanoverton community. So I'm sure he will be right at home going there to announce that game too. And that'll be a great one too. I'm excited to see what the Eagles do after that week 1 game.
Jamie Thompson will go to Lakeview as they welcome in the G-Men of Garfield. And man, Lakeview already beat the MVAC, grade tier 1 seed in Division 6, not the champions. Garfield took the league last year. But the MVAC, grade tier Division 6 darling, can they pull off another one against the reigning MVAC grade tier champions this week?
If they do this one, I feel like there's definitely, you've got to start opening your eyes up to
I'm not a professional.
Yeah. You got to open up your eyes to these Lakeview Bulldogs. And if they beat this Garfield team that, let's face it, it's another solid Garfield team. I expect nothing less from this Garfield team. It looks like they're going to be doing what they usually do, and that's have a winning season. I mean, whether they're going to have a booming season and make a deep run again like we saw last year where they have that undefeated season, that's up to be determined. But I think this is another one of those cases where you're going to see a good G-Men team. They're going to have a winning season, presumably. I mean, if I were to put my 2 cents into it, they're going to have a winning season. But this is a tough test for Lakeview, but if you answer the bell on this test, you get 2 wins in a row now. Now there's momentum generating for the Bulldogs.
This is if it would be a statement. It would be an unbelievable statement for Lakeview to say, hey, last year's 1 seed in Division 6, check. Last year's MVAC grade tier champion and the regional qualifier. I think they went to the regional semifinals, lost to Kirtland. Check.
Got up to D5 too. Then you would have to start looking at them and start saying, all right, maybe Lakeview has a spot in the tournament then after that kind of slate to start. And then you'd have to start obviously looking at where they'd have to line up NE8, and that's always the tough question, right? To answer is where can you get those NE8 wins? Because half of the time it's a coin toss of who's coming out of those games.
Lakeview looked impressive last week. Garfield's final score looked impressive, but remember, at halftime, it was a very competitive game against Crestwood, and for the long time, it was 19-14, and Garfield kind of ran away with it late. So, Garfield, maybe a couple of chinks in their armor. They were definitely replacing a lot of faces. They're trying to find an identity. We expect them to, but if you're going to get a team like that, you might as well get them early if you're Lakeview, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Middlefield Cardinal and the Huskies gave Garfield an interesting half too, and I think it took the G-Men about a half to figure out what they were doing on that football field again and get into a consistent rhythm. And once they got into that rhythm, it looked like business as usual from Garfield, like we saw all of last year. They just put on that kind of steamrolling engine, and they went full force with it.
Lakeview can really open some eyes if they win this week. And the G-Men can silence all that with a win on the road, as Jamie Thompson will be on the call for that 7 o'clock.
Should be a great game as well too to see if Lakeview can pull it off 2 weeks in a row.
So then we go to Struthers, as they looked very good last week as well. They will host Geneva, who we'll probably see the week after before Springfield as well. Geneva coming into this game against Struthers, and Struthers is another program in that NE8 that we think is going to look a lot different this year because they're healthy. Everyone's been talking about, hey, we were hit with the injury bug last year. They had to put a lot of young guys in new situations. We talked to Coach Bayek about it. But the benefit of that is now this year, all those young faces aren't in new situations anymore. They've been there. They've done that.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that Struthers community. It's actually one of my favorite communities, I think, to go in for just the support they have for their athletes and just great coaches that we always talk to. Whether you're going into basketball or you're going into football, I mean, Coach Bayek is always a great guy to talk to as well for the Wildcats. And this is another week where I could almost see Struthers doing something similar to what we saw a week ago, where they just start putting it on teams. They're playing with a lot of confidence right now. This is going to be a tough game, obviously. Tough to go in and get a win any week, but Geneva is one of those teams, Division 3. They've had their struggles before, but this is an opportunity, I think, for Struthers to have another kind of statement victory. Can they put it up again, put the points up in the box score? We'll see, but it's definitely, I think, an opportunity for a 2-0 start for the Wildcats.
Player to watch for Struthers is Tyler Sanchez. He had a heck of a week 1 on the ground. He's a great running back. That 88 is loaded with really good running backs with Antoine Gardner and Michael Palmer, and now Tyler Sanchez and Struthers. So keep an eye on him. He might have a field day against Geneva. We know they struggle against the run, so it might be the Tyler Sanchez show in Struthers.
For sure, it definitely could be. We'll have to watch and stay tuned to the Wildcat community tonight.
Our buddy Quinn is making the trip for that, and so is Nate. So Quinn and Nate will be on the call for that. We usually see them on Audible Call, but instead they're going to go and do a game this week in Struthers. So Quinn and Nate on the call for the Wildcats hosting the Eagles of Geneva. Now we go to a Jefferson team that looked very good in week 1. They scored more points than any team on the YSN family, 66-24. I think it was 27 actually. 27 against Grand Valley. But either way, it was 66 for Jefferson, which was once again the highest point total of any team in the YSN family. And now they have a pretty good Harvey team that they were able to beat last year, but it was a good game.
It was a very good game, and this Harvey team's usually a solid team year in and year out. They have decent size for their division, and that's what you're going to be looking at again in this matchup. I'm interested to see if Jefferson can hold their own, but they did beat them with a lot of those key positions returning, a lot of the offensive line returning as well, too. So, I mean, you're pretty much bringing back a lot of those pieces that were influential in that victory a year ago. A lot of those pieces are returning for Jefferson. They're going to look to try to run it back and do it again.
Last year when we talked to Coach Hanna, it was clear that the coaching staff believed that Jefferson could go and compete in the NE8. Now I think it's time. I think it's this time around the players believe it too. I think the players were kind of on the fence last year whether or not they could be a confident group going into NE8 play, even though they were 3-0. I think you kind of felt it sometimes in their games where they weren't exactly the most confident bunch out there. They didn't go onto the field expecting to win, that winning culture that we always talk about. This year, I think there's a different mindset because they're 1 year more of experience. There's a lot of seniors on that team. Grant Hitchcock's a senior quarterback now. I think there's more of an expectation to win when they step on the field.
It's a swan song season inside the conference for Jefferson, too.
Right, not just the seniors for their career, but the whole school for being inside the NE8.
And I mean, it's a program that's probably going to likely try to join something that's a little bit closer to home in Ashtabula County, and that's completely fine. We're going to look forward to continued coverage of Jefferson and the Falcons. But right now, it's a swan song season for them, too. And we talked with Coach Hanna, and he talked about just wanting to go out with a solid record, be competitive with one of the better football conferences in Northeastern Ohio, too, and be able to show that you can compete with that kind of style of football. And I think, if anything, just being able to go into this season, and if they are competitive, I think it's going to pay dividends going up against a lot of those Ashtabula County teams because, like you said and hinted at, Ant, they play a very old-school fundamental style of football, and that's fine, but you need to have the right guys in the right places to do that, where Jefferson now has kind of opened up their horizons because they've had to against this NE8, and now you can kind of be more versatile with offense. You can go that old-school game when you need to, but if you need to open it up and pass a little bit, Jefferson definitely a threat to do so as well.
How good would it feel for Jefferson if they had like a really good NE8 season and that was their kind of goodbye to the NE8? Like,
I think it would definitely open eyes for anybody in Ashtabula County.
They would say, "Hey, we finally proved we can compete in this league." Maybe they go 5-2 in the NE8 or 6-1 or something like that, and they walk away and they go, "Okay, we proved we can compete. Now let's go and own Ashtabula County."
That's something you hang your hat on. I don't know if anyone wants you in their conference then.
Goodbye. That'd be a mic drop moment. Just
you might have to run like Louisville and be like an independent school in Ashtabula County because I think we're good. We don't need that.
We're good.
We don't need that mess in here. No, it should be a great game. Another non-conference one for Jefferson. Let's see what they can do against a good Harvey team.
All right, we go on to the next game on our slate. We're just doing alphabetical order based on the road team. By the way, this is in no other particular order. Howland will go to Ravenna, right in your backyard. The blue field on the Ravens, in the Ravens den, Ravens nest. And Howland is a team that had their moments last week, but eventually could not find a way to win against Niles.
Yeah, Niles really put it on the Tigers, but also this was a Ravenna team that dropped a game last week, and school name is slipping me right now, but I know the school last year was 1-10 overall. So Ravenna really, and Ravenna typically a good team, 7-4 a year ago, I believe. Typically a usually I should say a solid team, but this year I don't know if there's some things going on, or I don't know if it was just an uptick from the team they played a season ago. But it's going to be interesting going into this one. But I think the Howland Tigers have a chance to maybe bounce back against a Ravenna team that might be having a down year.
So what you're saying is Ravenna might be feeling a little blue.
They very well could be. Lorraine is what it was. I was going to say Illyria, but I didn't feel it was right. Lorraine is who they played.
Lorraine, which is up towards Cleveland a little bit. So that we'll have to keep an eye on Ravenna, what they bring to the table. We think they're obviously usually a good program, but maybe a loss against the Lorraine team has proven some kinks in that armor.
Both low scoring games, 16-8 loss for Ravenna last week, 21-7 loss for Howland. So both definitely going to be looking for more offense and trying to find some offense this week.
Hubbard will be making the trip to Greenville. David Williams making the trip with them. He'll have the call. It's the Greenville team, right? That had Urson on the ropes in that Division IV playoff game last year. That Greenville, I'm pretty sure. I don't think there's another Greenville out there.
It's going to be a tough game. And I mean, this is another one I've been kind of tossing up with too, because honestly, you look at Hubbard last week, and I was torn between, because it's a little bit of both, but how much of it is he's an improved team and Hubbard is having more of a down year too because of what they lost. You know what I mean? When you look at that score, and that's kind of where I'm at with Hubbard right now. Very deceiving in week one, because I know East has improved and Hubbard's come down, but I don't know how much of it is in each.
You don't know how big the gap really is.
Yeah, I don't know how big that gap is in that one. That's kind of be interesting in this one, because like you said, Greenville usually a solid team from what I think, or what I remember. But I think Hubbard, this is going to be an interesting test for them. They pull off this win, I think people will start believing, okay, this is still that Hubbard team that we're used to from a year ago.
Well, if they get this win, then all those questions out of the offseason, can Hubbard find ways to win against good teams, goes right out the window, because Greenville is a really good football team.
Yeah, and I mean, you go right into, I believe, Howland the week after that too. So Hubbard's got some ground and pound teams and some physical big teams that they're going to have to face off against.
Yeah, and then you go after that, you go right into NE8 play, and we know how tough the NE8 is going to be this year.
Absolutely.
So we go on to the next one. Liberty at Girard. Girard looked really good in week one. I know we keep saying this. It's like a broken record. But Girard really impressed. They went to Streetsboro, a team that beat them last year by scoring over 70 points this time around. Girard held them to 24, and they still scored at a high clip. 42-24, Girard got the win against a really good Streetsboro team that knows how to score, that's for sure. So Girard's defense got locked in. They're healthy. They have Michael Palmer, who's coming off an 1,000-yard season. Everything going right for Girard. They have to keep that momentum going, though, because this will be a tough matchup. Liberty wants to kind of prove that they are a winning football team. They almost came back last week and got the win. They got to be able to, this would be a big win for Liberty.
It definitely would be a big win for Liberty, but I don't know, man. Girard, I just have this feeling that Girard is feeling some type of way this season too, and they might be poised to make some sort of run. I'm really interested to see these non-conference games these next 2 weeks, but I really want to see NE8 play open up, because if there's a team right now that I've looked at over the NE8 right now, I feel like the one that can maybe challenge South Range and maybe end that winning streak in that conference for the Raiders, I gotta say Girard has to be that team. I feel like at least first week, way too early prediction.
Way too early.
first week, just looking at it, Girard looks like the team that I think might be most poised to be that challenger, I guess, to say. Not saying that they would necessarily beat the Raiders, but be that challenger in that NE8 for South Range.
I think it's easier to lean that way, Ty, because you look at the week 1 and you see all the teams and then what they did. The team that's always been that team that competes with South Range for the top is Poland, and Poland didn't look like the same team in week 1.
They might be having one of those down years that every football team inevitably has sooner or later.
Right. So the question, after week 1, I think everyone's having that in that NE8 is who is going to be that team that takes that place and is the second place team for the NE8.
Yeah, who can answer that challenge too, and who can compete with South Range?
Well, I don't want to take credit away from Hubbard because last year it was Hubbard. I think everyone forgets about it because everyone talks about South Range and Poland in like every sport, but last year it was South Range Hubbard 1 and 2. So I apologize for missing that point.
We talked about Girard too being that team that went to state not too long ago, and they're just sitting there like, I think you all must have forgotten.
Yeah, I think you. Wait a minute. Let me reintroduce myself.
My
name is.
They definitely think they've been forgotten about. It feels like in that NE8 with Poland, Hubbard, all these teams getting attention. I tell you what,
so want that to be their walkout song for their home opener.
That would be pretty fun too.
Let me reintroduce myself.
I'm curious too. I want to check real quick before we move on. I just want to see, is that Girard matchup with South Range home or away this year? It is away. So, okay, Raiders go to Girard. That'll be an interesting game then.
It's away for South Range.
Yeah. So going to Girard.
I thought we were talking about. I thought you meant it was away for Girard because we were talking about Girard.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was on the South Range page when I was looking at it too.
Right, okay, so it's in Girard. Okay, you got to go to Arrowhead Stadium.
And I mean that's your opportunity.
Not Arrowhead Stadium.
Not here.
Still, Arrowhead's a very tough place to win, whether you're talking about the pros or high school. It's a tough place to go.
I'm excited for it too. I really cannot wait till NE8 play opens up because these teams, I want to start seeing how they're going to sort out against each other.
We got more, but we also have to pay more bills. So we're going to take another break. When we get back, we'll lock down the second half of the matchups tonight. We'll also talk about what we have going on this weekend and much more on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
We are Kent State in the Valley. Start and finish one of more than 25 bachelor's or associate degree programs, or start one of Kent State's 280 majors. With low tuition, public, and plenty of scholarship opportunities, we will help you maximize your education and minimize student debt. Enjoy the benefits of a smaller campus with all the opportunities of a large university. Save money, stay close to home. Apply today by visiting kent.edu/Trumbull.
WRS Wealth Advisors is the area's premier wealth and retirement specialist. With our combined 70 years experience, WRS Wealth Advisors is the area's premier wealth and retirement specialist. Call 330-965-0370 to learn more about our individual and corporate financial planning services, or visit WRSwealth.com. Good luck, athletes.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
reliability, innovation, scale. These 3 values are those we look forward to in our business and in our team. If you're ready for a reliable employer who looks constantly to think outside the box in big ways, we're ready for you. Apply now. Help us push the envelope and deliver success. Envelope 1. Take that one extra step.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun. It all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
You're not waiting to see what the world has in store for you. It's more about what you have in store for the world. All you need is the opportunity. All you need are the resources of a large university and the advantages of a personalized academic setting where you can experience new worlds in the arts and sciences, business, and education and make them your own. We are where you shape your future. We are Youngstown State University and proud.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Harwig alongside Ty Bartell as we continue our Week 2 football previews and break down the matchups that are happening this week. We left off with Liberty traveling to Girard. Matt Mayer going to have the call on that one. 7 o'clock kickoff down in Arrowhead Stadium. Lowville will travel to Campbell Memorial. Eric Hughes will have the call on this one. Can Lowville one up their Week 1 performance? Is there a way to one up that? I mean, obviously, the only way to do it is say we're going to score 60.
Yeah, but this is one of those rivalry games still. Don't forget this is the Battle of the Mahoning River as well. That's what they call it down there between Campbell and Lowville. These two teams, two schools not far from each other in the slightest. So this is always a fun game. Obviously, Lowville coming in heavy favorites, but we've seen plenty of rivalry games like this in high school and certainly in the college scene where just because you're the heavy favorite doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go out as victors too. We actually seen flip side where Campbell Memorial was a favorite basketball-wise going against Lowville last season, and Lowville took a win against them in the Quicken Loans Arena. So this is
that installment of the Battle of the Mahoning River was done way up in Cleveland.
They did that one right there at Rocket Mortgage. But, yeah, this is going to be an interesting game, certainly, anytime these two teams are in it. But, yeah, this is an uphill battle for sure for Camel. And you're looking to see if Vinny Balone and those boys can do work again like they did last week.
When you look at this game, you know, you might be thinking automatically, okay, it's going to be a blowout for Lowville. Check this one. Let's move on. But I'm looking at this Campbell team, and I know they got, beat up last week, but I'm looking at watching that game, and it like Coach said when we had him on earlier in the season, I should say, or before the season, it's not unfixable mistakes. It's just being in the wrong positions. It's making the wrong read or taking a wrong angle to something. It's not things that you can't fix. The athleticism is there for sure. I think the talent is also there in Campbell. I think they just got to get more reps and more practice and more football IQ instilled in these kids. And then the confidence will show up. So I don't think it's an automatic blowout for Lowville. I definitely think, like you said, it's a tall mountain to climb for Campbell, but I'm looking at this team and I'm not thinking like they're getting overpowered, overrun, overmatched. They're just kind of making mistakes that are fixable if you go and watch film and you just, you present them in practice.
Absolutely.
So it'll be interesting to see if they can make those adjustments this week and maybe make this rivalry game a game. It'll be in Camel, so it'll be a home game for Memorial, but I got to say, Lowville on turf is scary.
It is scary too, and I mean it's a home game for Camel, but it's not a far drive for Lowville Faithful. No. So Lowville Faithful are going to be in that Camel Memorial what do they call that stadium? I forget the stadium name now. Oh man, I was gonna go with the stadium name, but it completely slipped my mind.
Oh no.
But it is a beautiful stadium over there. When I get the name of it, I'll definitely shout it out. I need to find it now. I gotta.
So that'll be at 7 o'clock. Eric Hughes will have the call. We move on to McDonald at Columbiana. It'll be Joe Cebio and Hop on the call for us there. This one's interesting because both teams for this week one.
Casual sports got me. Casual sports got me. John
Yeah,
Knapp. Yeah, I knew it was named after someone. I couldn't remember the name. Good luck. That's a beautiful field, though. Gorgeous. Built into that mountainside too, or the hillside, I should say. And Louisville being right down the road, it's gonna be packed house for
we
sure.
thank our casual sports friends for tuning in and giving us a comment. I mean, you'll be able to see them.
Got the tag in.
You'll be able to see them in a little less than an hour.
Yeah, we will be able to see them as well. But what was next up? You said Columbiana McDonald, right, Ant?
Yeah, they are going to be the voices of Valley Christian and Camel all season as the Eagles call Camel their home. Next, we have McDonald at Columbiana.
Yeah, this is going to be one where both these teams coming off of a loss a week ago. I'm interested to see who's going to bounce back because one of these teams get their first win of the season, and that's always great to see. I always love seeing one team get that first initial win too, because then, like you said, it always makes those bus rides and that Friday night worth it.
It might be 2-0-1 teams, but I think this might be one of the more competitive games of the night.
It very well could be. This is one where Columbiana took last season from McDonald, but both of these teams coming off of some rough week ones, they definitely want to showcase what they're made of this week two and get a victory, and I think they're both going to be fighting tooth and nail to try to get it.
I think they match up well. They have similar schemes and similar philosophies as a football team. So this one should be pretty good. And it might be one that we keep an eye on heavily in the audible call at 7 o'clock.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see who gets the first win.
Here's a flip side. Here are two teams that had really good week ones that maybe people didn't see coming. Not saying they didn't see a win coming, but they didn't see the explosiveness of these two offenses coming. Newton Falls travels to Jackson Milton, and they'll have to try to defend Alex Shavi, who is coming off of a program record 7 touchdowns in one game for Jackson Milton.
Yeah, and this is a really good football team right now in Newton Falls, though, that I want people to remember that. I mean, you can't. It's easy to be prisoner of the moment because Alex Shavi really did work. He lit it up.
Oh, Ty's bringing out the prisoner of the moment. He's like, let's go. Uh-oh.
Prisoner of the moment because you got to remember this was a similar team, similar faces on Jackson Milton a year ago. Newton Falls did work against them week 2, same week after Jackson Milton came off of a week 1 victory. I'm not saying history repeats itself. I'm just saying can't forget about the Newton Falls Tigers. And it feels like Jackson Milton's booming, and they definitely should be. They should be going in with a lot of momentum. Alex Shavi lit it up, had a career game, and like we talked about, I don't care who you are, 7 touchdowns is 7 touchdowns.
Right.
Respect on that. But this is still a team that beat you a season ago. You're returning a lot of those players that was on that team a season ago. Granted, they've gotten better. This is a little bit different of a team experience-wise, but this is still a team that owns a victory on you in 21. And can't forget about that if you're Jackson Milton going into this game. You can't overlook them just because of what you did last week.
Battle of tempos. Then we say this a lot, and it happens a lot, but it's a Newton Falls team that likes to ground and pound and run. They ran the ball really well, had over 200 yards at halftime in week 1 on the ground. So they'll look to run, but obviously, Jackson Milton has turned into an air raid offense. They have 7 passing touchdowns already to lead the MVAC Scarleteer. He beat out Vinny Balone, so Shavi leads the Scarleteer right now with 7 touchdown passes. Who's going to control the tempo? It's what this game's going to come down to. I hate to kind of be so repetitive, but there are a lot of games in the high school season that come down to one team that wants to slow the game down and one team that wants to be a high-flying scoring offense. Whoever controls the ball more is going to be the victor. So Newton Falls wants to keep Shavi and that offense off the field.
And definitely Newton Falls wants to get all that talk time and that air time to be about them as well. They've heard all the talks about Jackson Milton and Shavi, and with good reason, but that's all bulletin board material for the Tigers, and they're looking at that and they're saying, okay, well, let's see what you do against our defense. I love this matchup. I think it's going to be great tonight.
Last week, Richie Giuliano was in Western Reserve, and now almost like he's going right to the other side of that rivalry. He's going to Jackson Milton this week, so he gets both sides of one of the biggest rivalries in the area with Western Reserve and Jackson Milton. Now he'll get a taste of the Jackson Milton football scene as he and Kyle Wills go to call that game from the Blue Jays nest in Jackson Milton. Should be a good one. 7:00 is the kickoff time.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one, and it's great voice behind it as well, as Richie's going to be on the call.
Next, we have a YSN debut. Orange is going to be a YSN team for the first time in week 2 as they travel to Middle Ridge. Man, did Middle Ridge look good in week 1. Jake Silak's going to have the call as Orange comes to town.
You know what? I love the fact that Orange is now a part of the YSN network. We welcome them in with open arms, but I tell you what, the Rams are not, and this is going to be a tough game for Orange to try to introduce themselves to YSN viewers, because right now Tristan Valley, I think if you want to talk about quarterbacks that were impressive, I mean Xavi, very impressive. I think Tristan Valley was very impressive last week. 169 yards through the air, over a 50% completion percentage in that department. No INTs there as well, and 150 yards on the ground as well, on 8 rushes nonetheless. And that's impressive for me for the quarterback going into senior season. And then, of course, you also had Herb that had 180 yards on 6 rushing attempts, 30 yards per attempt.
That's ridiculous.
That is eating for sure every time the ball touches your hand.
So you got to think this week they're going to try to get him in the ball in space. I mean, that's got to be the game plan.
It's got to be that, and also, but you have a quarterback in Valley that was serviceable, 13 for 25 in the air, 169 yards, still got it to guys. Miller is was the number 1 target, 8 catches for 81 yards. He's still that guy that when you need him to drop back pass, he can get you 10, 15, even a 20-yard gain too if the defense is sleeping on him too. So, and he can also break out of the pocket and run. So you have 2 serviceable runners to go to, and Valley don't got a bad arm either, so he can definitely get it done with the arm as well.
No, and I think this is a perfect, because obviously Middle Ridge lost Mark Bunch. Tristan Valley comes in and he's like, hey, I came and I replaced the injured Nate Bengala last season in Gerard, so I know what to do back here. And he's definitely, he's an experienced quarterback. He knows he's been there, done that. Maybe a new quarterback face for the Middle Ridge community, but not new to the situation or the position.
How about this too? In that game, both Ian Erb and, well, let me double check. Yeah, Ian Erb had 2 touchdowns rushing. Valley had 1, and he also had a passing touchdown as well. So 3 touchdowns on the ground for Mineral Ridge, and they had 1 through the air. So definitely versatile is Tristan Valley, and I think that's going to pose a lot of issues for Orange. But it's a debut game, and we've seen plenty of YSN debuts go the way of the team that's introducing themselves to the network.
Southern's last week went immaculately. So.
Yeah, they went as well as you can, I think, for a debut games.
Padua Franciscan travels to Ursuline, another big game for the Irish. This is going to be the theme of the week every week is, the Irish are welcoming in a really good football team, or the Irish are traveling to play a really good football team. This week, they're welcoming in them into Stambaugh Stadium. Anthony Malone and Steve Leslie will have the call for this one. And, Ursuline still trying to prove themselves a little bit. They have a lot of new faces making plays, but last week, all those new faces made all those plays. Erickson shined in his debut as quarterback. DC Farrell made plays on both sides of the ball. Ursuline was just as high flying as they were a season ago. Now it's time to prove they can do that consistently.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the biggest question in this one, because they beat a good Brookfield team last week. They certainly did. They put work to the Warriors for sure. But I think the biggest thing we need to remember too, this was still an up division game for Brookfield and down division game for Ursuline. They were still playing down division. So yeah, they beat them. They beat them by a decent amount of points. They put the work to them, but now this is going to be a little bit more competitively balanced as far as the numbers are concerned, division-wise. I'm curious to see how Ursuline does this week. I think they definitely are favorites considering on how high flying that offense looked. They look like they're multidimensional again, which, I mean, what do you expect when you have those kind of athletes there that are returning to? Erickson steps right in, takes over our QB role for Shannon. It's like he's been made to do this for the last few years. He's been ready for this spot.
Yeah.
So it's an Ursuline team that definitely has a lot of excitement surrounding it again this season. And, a lot of those guys that are returning from a year ago want to get back to that stage they were at.
Padua Franciscan is not Division 6, we can tell you that much. So it will be a step up from last week as far as division and size of the team goes.
Certainly, and that's going to be an interesting battle, I think. A tough one for Ursuline, but looking to go 2-0.
We move on to the site of YSN primetime last night as Louisville will host Poland. Both teams 0-1 looking for their first win of the season, and both teams' offenses got shut out. So who's going to score first, who's going to be able to find an offensive rhythm in this game is going to be key.
I think it is for sure, but I think honestly, if I was looking at both those teams, and I was looking at both those games a week ago, my 2 cents on it, I mean, Poland, it looks like offensively they just need to figure something out. Cheney overpowered them defensively. And it was just a case, I think, where let my dog bark for a second. It was just a case where the dogs weren't barking in that game. As the problem was that defensively, the dogs weren't barking. The offense wasn't barking too. Poland needs to figure it out. It's a dog-cat battle. But the Leopards, though, you look at what they got this season, Ant. That game against Steubenville, they looked really good defensively, and they gave
they did
everything that they were worth. And the Big Red, for them to only get 21 points and for every one of those touchdowns to be tough to get, that's a compliment to that Leopard squad.
I think that being said, you have to think of this as going to be a low-scoring affair and probably really competitive.
I mean, you would figure too, and it's going to be interesting to see. I want to see Poland's offense put together a good drive. That's going to be telling for me to see both of these teams too, both Poland and Louisville. I want to see an offensive drive put together from those teams.
This might be week 2's Boardman versus Mooney, where a late field goal gets a really low-scoring win. Who knows?
It very well could too, and it could come right down to the wire.
We move on to Rootstown traveling to Champion. It'll be C.J. Schroeds and Noah Doty on the call there. Joey Fell will be trying to lead the Champion Flashes to their first win. Obviously, a tough first week test as they had to welcome in Warren JFK into the Flashes' home field. Now Joey Fell going to have to deal with Rootstown, who is a very good football team in their own right.
It is a very good team, and I mean Rootstown not too far from here as well. And Rootstown was a team that played Champion and beat Champion a season ago. So Rootstown definitely looking to turn back the clock and run it back to what they did a year ago. But Champion has a great quarterback in Joey Fell that is dual threat all the way. And like you said, it's a tough draw asking to beat a Warren JFK team a season ago. But this is also a Rootstown team that comes in 1-0 on the season after a dominating victory against Crestwood. So it'll be interesting to see as the Rovers never a pushover team, it seems like.
Yeah, they're tough. And I think the game last year between these two was pretty competitive. But I think it'll be a good one again. Champion, there's no better sharpening tool than playing Warren JFK week 1.
No, not at all. It'll definitely prepare you for matchups like this against the Rovers. And I'm curious to see how they do. But here's an interesting fact, too. Rootstown a year ago lost to that Crestwood team 28-7. Beat them 33-0 this year. So could be a different looking Rovers team.
Yeah,
don't underestimate them this year.
By the way, as the dog's barking in the background, I would remind everyone that a rover for Rootstown is not a dog, which I thought it was for years. Because Red Rover, I thought it was a dog. Because Rover is a very popular dog name. No, Rover is a boat.
Yeah.
It's a boat. It's a ship. It's not a dog. Rootstown will travel the Champion, and they'll try to make it 2 years in a row against the Flashes. We move on to Salem. They'll travel to Beaver Local. This was a good game last year, and Salem, they struggled a little bit against Crestview. Their offense struggled to find a rhythm. Beaver Local did struggle a lot against Indian Valley, not Indian Creek, Indian Valley. Both these teams coming off of games where they feel like they could have played better. Salem was able to get the win because of their defense. Beaver Local obviously did not get the win against Indian Valley, so they're looking for their first win of the season. But I think both teams come into this week knowing that they need to play better in week 2.
They definitely do. But I think, like you said, a product of Salem's victory was their defense keeping them in it. And honestly, to say that Salem didn't have a great offensive week against a Crestview defense, I mean, how many teams have great offensive performances against Crestview's defense?
That's true.
Crestview's defense and Coach Cusick always come in with a great game plan to shut down your most effective players. And for Beaver Local, I think it was just one where it's a case where things just weren't working out. The game plan, you had a solid game plan going forward, but it was just, I think, execution issues. And that's week 1 sometimes. You take one on the chin, you try to refocus, you know what it feels like, you got the reps in, you played some varsity football, now you're ready for week 2. I think you're going to see an improved Beaver Local team going against Salem in this one. And I'm curious to see if Salem can continue the role. They got that win last year, see if they can go 2 for 2 now.
This game was played in Salem last year. It was a Quaker victory. Now they have to go to Beaver Local, and maybe some revenge on the Beavers' minds.
Certainly, and I mean, Beaver Local is one of those teams too that's tough to play in Beaver Local, and you got the voice typically of Mikey McNuggies behind him as well, so it's even tougher to win there in Beaver Local.
Mike McKenzie will be on the call. He's having a great season on the call on the mic for us. He's also having a great golf season as Beaver Local got the win on Thursday. You can check out the recap for that on ysnlive.com, but I want to give him a shout out because not only putting in the work for us, doing volleyball games, doing soccer games during the week, but he's also putting in the work on the golf course and putting together a lot of quality scores. He actually was a big reason why Beaver Local Golf was able to beat Crestview earlier this season. So maybe Mike McKenzie's voice can make them I don't know why I was thinking about they were playing at Crestview for a minute. They're playing at Salem. Salem beat Crestview. Woo! But Mike McKenzie's still doing a great job in the golf at the golf course, and he'll be on the call tonight. 7:00 kickoff from Beaver Local. Valley Christian will travel to LeBray. Brian Oatridge will have the call, and LeBray needs to bounce back in a big way, and Valley Christian doesn't. That's the framework of this game.
And Valley Christian is clicking on all cylinders, it seems like, after last week with big impact.
Nixon is just a freak, and in a good way.
As big as the dude is, too. He is a freight train that has like a Ferrari engine.
But he's fast. He's fast for a big dude and a strong. I was talking about this on Monday when we recapped their game against Camel. Camel's an athletic team. There's not a lot of guys that can beat Camel in a foot race. But Mixon's running down the sidelines, and not only is he breaking a couple of arm tackles on the sidelines, but then he's outrunning guys that have pretty good angles on him. It was incredible watching him play last week. He's in another level, and Valley Christian looks to keep rolling this week.
I think they definitely can as well. It's going to be a favorable matchup for them. Let's see if LeBray can bounce back, though. You know that they definitely want to get a bounce back performance after last week.
Yeah, you want big. 6'4", 240. That's big.
Yeah.
I want to know what his 40-yard dash time is. That's what I want to know.
6'4", 240. Like I said, we've gotten a chance to see him on the basketball court as well. He's got some size to him, but that's
if your last name is Mixon, you better be good at running the football. Right? I mean, come on. If you share a last name with a NFL running back, you better be good at running the football.
Yeah, absolutely.
You go on to that one. It'll be Wellsville traveling to Edison. Edison, a big win in week 1, 42-8 against Monroe Central. Wellsville trying to change their aspects from what they had in week 1 as well.
He did 80 yards through tackles in about 12 to 13 seconds.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it was incredible.
Figure out the 40 time.
All right, let me do this.
Yeah, Sherlock Holmes it. But now
Carry the 4.
We've talked with Coach Colopy before too, and this Edison program gets a big win week 1 to start, and they're just continuing to try to build this program up from what it was a few years ago. And Coach Colopy's been a huge driving force behind that. And honestly, with the Wildcats going into this game, this is a favorable matchup for them too, considering that Wellsville having a little bit of a down week last week. But if you're the Wellsville Tigers, you're looking to bounce back because a lot of people were picking the Wellsville Tigers in that game, and they kind of fell a little bit flat. I think Wellsville wants to show everyone that wasn't what to expect from this Tigers team this season, and they want to put up a good performance. It's a cat fight, though, between Edison and Wellsville.
Isaiah Greenhouse will be the player to watch for Wellsville. They succeed when he succeeds. Gary Altizer and Coy will be on the call for this one. So the Wellsville boys making the trip to Edison to get this one on the network. And that should be a fun one. 7 o'clock, Woodridge travels to West Branch. And it'll be Michael on the call for that as West Branch tries to bounce back from a tough loss against a good Canfield team where it was a great game. Both teams played great. Canfield just came out on top.
Yeah, they absolutely did, and this is going to be an interesting matchup, I think, with West Branch trying to kind of bounce back and show everyone, okay, here's the standard of what we want to do this season. I mean, I know last week was a hard opponent, but West Branch had opportunities to come away victorious in that one, and the Warriors are a little bit upset about how last week ended. They want to take their frustrations out on someone. This might be the perfect opponent for them.
You said it. I was about to say this is no disrespect to Woodridge, but this has makings of a absolute blowout all over it because West Branch is just better, and they're a little bit ticked off. So that's just going to be a bad recipe for Woodridge. I think they're going to struggle all night long.
I think so as well. I think it'll be a big night for the Warriors.
How about this game? This is sneakily going to be a good matchup. Southern against Crestview.
I am so torn on this one right now. As far as picks, I keep going back and forth because I can give so many great reasons to give it to both teams because even in a loss, Crestview did not look bad at all against Salem. Their
offense needs to find more dynamicness.
Yeah, that's
the knock on Crestview right now is they were way too one-dimensional to beat Salem.
Rockland Batura though is a man.
That's a pretty big one dimension when you have Batura back there. I mean, he's the guy that you can't stop when you know it's coming.
He's huge too, but when you can get some of that pressure off of him, and I think Coach Cusick he's one of those guys too. He's genius with getting getting the ball distributed to and creating open lanes and open holes for other guys as well. Rockland Batura is one of those guys where if he can get a little bit of that defensive pressure off of him and focused and shifted maybe to one of his other teammates, it's going to create so many more opportunities for him to do what he does best, and that's take over games.
You do not want 24 running towards you.
No, not at all. I think this is one of those games that can definitely sneak away with game of the night, honestly. I think this can go back and forth the whole way through. Both really solid programs, and Southern, hey, they were a solid team last year. They faced off last year. We'll see if Southern can get the revenge from a year ago.
Right, there are two games that we couldn't get on the network tonight. Strasburg, Franklin will travel to Waterloo, and Lisbon will travel to Fairport Harbor. Those games are happening, just won't be on the network. The last game on our network will be for the 441 Gold Guys as they travel to Edgewood, and they will have Grand Valley against Edgewood. Grand Valley's offense was not the problem last week. They scored, 27 points against Jefferson. They're a good passing team. But here comes Edgewood, who had that, dramatic 2-point conversion win over Conneaut last week, and they are not a passing team. They want to ground the ball out, and it's another game of tempo versus tempo.
It is another game of tempo versus tempo, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if Edgewood can continue rolling with that momentum they already established in week one, walk-off victory like that.
In high school, in higher levels of football, you always tend to side with the team that can slow the game down a little bit but I feel like in high school, the more plays you have to run, the more opportunities there are for a mistake. So I tend to kind of side with the teams that can score in lightning fashion if they have to every now and then. I don't know. Edgewood definitely had a big play last week. I think they had a 70-plus yard touchdown run. So it's not like Edgewood can't score quickly, but they definitely would prefer a long, drawn-out drive, which can work if you complete it, but it can also increase the chance of mistakes.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the things you have to look out for. Take the pros and the cons, outweigh them from each other. But it's going to be interesting going into this week to see if Grand Valley can make that adjustment and beat that rival of Jefferson too before those two have to lock horns.
I was counting our games. Hold on.
No,
Because that was our last matchup on the network. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. I have 29 games on the network tonight. For football, we just went over all of them. And it's going to be a fun night on the network. It's going to be a fun night on Audible Call. Make sure to hit up ysnlive.com/live for all the games. They're all free. Click on the game that you want to watch. Or if you want to check in on all of them, make sure to tune into Audible Call with Mike Ackelson, brought to you by WRS Wealth Advisors at 7 o'clock as we jump from game to game to game and check in a little bit on everybody throughout the night. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to go over the rest of the weekend and what Saturday will look like for the volleyball and soccer teams in the area before we wrap this one up and get you ready for week 2 of football. So we'll be right back on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
It's a new year at Acura of Boardman and Boardman Mitsubishi with huge savings on over 350 fully inspected vehicles. We have cars, trucks, SUVs, minivans, and work vehicles. If we don't have it, our team will find it. We aim for 100% credit approval with payments as low as $99 per month. And as always, we'll pay top dollar for your trade. For a great vehicle and a great experience, come see why everyone is stopping by at Acura Boardman and Boardman Mitsubishi.
You're not waiting to see what the world has in store for you. It's more about what you have in store for the world. All you need is the opportunity. All you need are the resources of a large university and the advantages of a personalized academic setting, where you can experience new worlds in the arts and sciences, business, and education, and make them your own. We are where you shape your future. We are Youngstown State University, and proud.
You know, being able to have success on the football field and the basketball court and just every aspect of, my sports career is now documented. One of the greatest things about high school sports is to be able to talk about it for the rest of your life and to look back on the days with my buddies whenever we would have some battles, whether it was with our rival or just another game, and I could go back and look at it and not only myself but my family members, my teammates, and it's something that will last a lifetime. My name is Parker Sherry, and my sports network is your sports network.
It's storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Notice we'll have scattered showers on Thursday.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
For a great vehicle and a great experience, come to Boardman Mitsubishi today.
As always, our full lineup of Mitsubishi models comes with a standard 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Boardman Mitsubishi, your hometown Mitsubishi dealer since 1999.
But now you can see every school, to the smallest school, to the intermediate schools, to the schools in the outlying areas. It gives you coverage that you could just never get to before. It's something that's great to experience, and it's opened up a whole new wave of sports viewership. The possibilities are endless here at YSN. Push the envelope every day. Try something new. If it works, great. If it doesn't, well, let's try another angle, and we just keep moving forward. My name is Mike Ackelson, and my sports network is your sports network.
You can check out Mike Ackelson and the boys in the Audible Call this evening at 7 o'clock for week 2 of high school football, brought to you by WRS Wealth Advisors. I'm Anthony Hartley. That's Ty Bartell. This is Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. We thank you for tuning in. We've went over every matchup of week 2 that's going to be on the network. 29 games on tonight. ysnlive.com/live is where you can find them. But Ty, we also have stuff going on Saturday. We'll talk about the first 2 football games that are going to be happening, which are both at 7 o'clock. You will be in Middle Ridge as Mooney will host Mineral Lake Catholic. What do you think about this one? I mean, Mooney obviously played well on defense, but he couldn't find enough offense to beat Boardman in week 1. But, defense wins championships, right?
Both these teams are coming off of a very close loss in week 1 to good opponents. Boardman for Mooney in a 10-7 defeat, and Dover for Mineral Lake Catholic 16-13 last week. Now, in this too, I think what's interesting for Lake Catholic, their roster size from a year ago for their football team stood at 39 participants. This year, it's 69 participants. So up 30 from a season ago on the varsity level. There's definitely a influx of talent that has come to Menor Lake Catholic, and I think there's going to be a different look than what you've seen from years before. But I also do want to say caveat that Dover has lost a lot of key position players from a year ago, too. So this was going to be a very different looking Dover team than what we've seen in years prior. And it's not that same 12-1 team that went to the D3 regional semi a season ago. This is a different Crimson Tornado team. Menor Lake Catholic pushed them. They still were able to come out with the victory. I think that's going to be a lot better and a lot closer than some expect between Mooney and Lake Catholic.
Well, you look at this Lake Catholic team, they only scored 13 points. You're thinking to myself, well, Mooney's defense is built to hold people anyway, and this team only scored 13 in week 1. We might be gearing up for another low-scoring game where Mooney's defense shines yet again.
It very well could, too, and this should be interesting to see if Mooney can bounce back with a win. Both teams looking for their first win of the season.
And that'll be in Mineral Ridge on 7 o'clock on Saturday as Mooney has their home field at Mineral Ridge. The other game on the network for Saturday will be Sebring at Matthews. It will be played at Lakeview. Brian Oatrich will have the call there, 7 o'clock. Sebring looking for their first win of the season.
They're looking for their first win. It's going to be tough. Matthews is usually a pretty solid team, but yeah, Sebring is going to look to try to get their first victory of the season aboard too, and it's always going to be fun with teams trying to strive for it. And they had their struggles last week. There's definitely some improvements to be had. We'll see if they can make them going into week 2 against Matthews.
And the Broncos are a good small school that always has a rich tradition in football, so it's not easy for Sebring to go on. Well, I guess I should say on the road, but they're both it's a neutral site, I guess, for Lakeview.
Call it football, call it basketball, call it softball. I mean, they're just good at everything. They're good at all athletics. It's like another JFK, honestly.
On Saturday in the morning, we'll have volleyball for you. Ty, you're having a busy day. You have a tri-match in West Branch. Howland and Struthers come into the Warriors field house at 10 a.m. And you look at that. Howland just lost to Canfield last night. Struthers pushed Poland to 5 sets on Tuesday. West Branch seems, though, to be the class of that tri-match, in my opinion.
Yeah, it gives exposure to a little bit of every conference, too, and the 8AAC and EBC. So I'm excited to see a little bit of the styles of all these volleyball teams and these different conferences.
Second tri-match in 2 weeks for West Branch. They swept the tri-match at South Range to open the weekend last weekend, beating South Range and Southeast in South Range. So now they have a home tri-match where they will play an Indiana team and then they will play Howland. I think Howland versus West Branch probably the best game in that setting. And I think it's going to be a good 3 matches of volleyball. Remember that tri matches are best 2 out of 3 instead of best 3 out of 5. So you gotta start quick. You can't come back from a 2-0 deficit in these ones.
No, not at all. You got to make sure first set becomes that much more important.
Another volleyball game on the network on Saturday is going to be Austintown Fitch traveling to Lakeview. This is a big one. This is big powerhouse. These are 2 teams that know how to swing. They have a lot of talented players. It's going to be a good match.
Yeah, I know it was going to be a good match too, and I saw Anthony's name right on it too. He grabbed it, and yeah, that should be a fun matchup as well too. I know Fitch has a great road schedule this year, and you're going to get a chance to see a couple of those games too because they're all YSN featured schools. They go into the NE8 a couple of times. This is one of those matchups, and I mean it's Tara Lytle, it's Jocelyn Jordan. What more can you ask for? And if they're on the same court.
It's going to be 84 tomorrow. That game is being played at 2:00. That gym is going to be hot.
And it's going to get that much hotter with the amount of kills you're going to see from both.
You add that to the people that are going to be in it, and everyone's going to be like exhausting energy. Ooh, I better take a personal fan.
There you go.
One of those ones with like a spray bottle that just kind of missed me.
Yeah, okay. There you go. Set yourself up for success tomorrow.
Right.
Should be a great matchup, though.
Be prepared. Other volleyball games that are happening tomorrow won't be on the network, but are happening. Oak Glen will travel to Boardman. That game was supposed to be played on Thursday. It is now being played Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Canfield travels to Western Reserve. That'll be another really, really good one.
Yeah, that one will be really good as well. 2 really good programs. Talked with Coach Hughes last night about it, too, and it's going to be a fun matchup Saturday morning.
Another good one, Heartland Christian at Brookfield. Brookfield escaped the thriller with Liberty last night. You can find that recap on ysnlive.com. Heartland's always a good volleyball team. That should be a really good one in Brookfield on Saturday.
Yeah, and this should be interesting to see who can come out on top of this one. It'll definitely kind of help shape some things going forward.
Leetonia will also travel to Waterloo on Saturday to round out the volleyball matches on Saturday. Then we go into girls soccer. We'll have Ursuline and Howland on the network. David Williams will have the call at 3:00. Ursuline and Hubbard, I'm sorry, not Howland. Ursuline and Hubbard for girls soccer on the network. And that will round out the games on the network on Saturday. So we will have 2 volleyball, 1 soccer game. We will also have 2 football games on the network on Saturday as well. So after your busy Friday, make sure to check out the games on Saturday. ysnlive.com/live is where you can find them. Ty, as we wind down this show, what are kind of your final thoughts on week 2 and some of the games that you're really going to be looking forward to tonight, other than the one that you're calling? Which
I was going to say, obviously, the one I'm going to be at.
Yeah, you can't pick that one.
Looking forward to. It's Crestview Southern. I think that's going to be exciting tonight. I think that's going to be a game I'm going to be trying to tune into to see if Southern can have repeat performance, see if Crestview can get their first win of the season. I think that's going to be fun. Another one, too, just glancing over this again. I think Cheney Boardman is going to maybe steal the show tonight, honestly, as game of the night with these 2 teams and how physical that they're going to be. I think it's going to be really fun with that one as well. And then the other one, too, that I'm excited.
Picking 3.
No, I'll stop there because I was going to pick one more, but no, I think those 2 are going to be fun.
Leave me something to talk about.
I'll go Southern Crestview and I'll go Boardman Cheney are the first 2 that I was, because there was 3 that I was really looking at that really I raised my eyebrows at, but no, those 2 are the ones I'll go with. I'll keep an eye out for them.
My biggest pick, Ty, mine is Newton Falls, Jackson Milton.
It'll be a fun one tonight. And they got a great voice over there with Richie Giuliano that's going to be guiding you through it. So it's going to be a great matchup.
Tempo. You know, running game of Newton Falls versus the passing game of Jackson Milton. Who's going to control the clock? Who's going to come up with that big play? It might also come down to who makes that key mistake in a big situation of the game.
Yeah, it very well could. And that could be the difference between a win and a loss, definitely.
Since you took 2, I'm gonna take one that preseason no one would have thought this is a game that you're gonna keep an eye on, but Garfield at Lakeview. I keep looking at that going, the possibility that this turns into a huge storyline game is off the charts. So I'm going to be keeping my eye on that game to see if Lakeview can really carry momentum into week 2.
Would be a heck of a win for the Bulldogs if they pull it off against a great.
Have they arrived? Like if they win week 2, Lakeview's arrived. It's like, okay.
I might have to. I mean, we'll have to see, and I don't want to
have to see. Yeah, Ty's being cautious.
I won't be prisoner of the moment, but if
I love it.
If Lakeview continues,
I'm not saying that Lakeview's gonna win. I'm just saying that it has a potential to be one of those ones that really opens your eyes with how well Lakeview played last week.
does win. This might be a statement I'd have to take back about Girard being the team that might contend with South Range then, because that's 2 big wins too. You might have to start giving attention to the Bulldogs over there in Lakeview.
And those eyes would shift, that's for sure.
There's another Bulldog team that challenges South Range. They're just not from Poland.
And they're blue too. It's like, come on. Oh man. Every team that has challenged South Range has been a blue color scheme.
Yeah.
Because even Hubbard's got that blue and silver. So
it should be a good night of football tonight, and we got some games tomorrow. Bunch of games in store: volleyball, football, all this weekend on ysnlive.com.
34 games total between tonight and tomorrow. Reminder: it starts at 5:00 with South Range traveling to University School. 5:00 kickoff there. Every other game starts at 7, and then tomorrow the action starts, and I believe 10 a.m. is when your tri-match starts. And it goes. The last games will be at 7:00 with some football.
Yep. So full day for you on Saturday as well.
This was Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. We'll take a 70-hour break. Me and Ty will be back on Monday to recap all the weekend's action. Casual Sports Podcast coming up next from 2 to 3. Power Hour with Mike Ackelson hosting Power Hour because DJ Oakley is on the way to university. So it'll be a fun Power Hour with a bunch of YSN personalities. You'll get to hear everyone's picks, and we'll have a lot of fun on Power Hour to get you ready for the games tonight. ysnlive.com is where you can find them. Also, check out the Audible Call brought to you by